Welcome to the Branding Room Only podcast, where we share career stories, strategies, and lessons learned on how industry leaders and influencers have built their personal brands. Now, let's get started with the show. Hi, everyone. It's Paula Edgar, your host of Branding Room Only podcast, where I talk to influencers and industry professionals about their personal brands, their reflections on brands, and their advice about personal branding. And today I have Anjli Garg, who is going to be talking to us about so many fantastic things. Anjli is an executive coach and founder of Your Coach to Soar. She has over 2 decades of experience as a top-performing corporate lawyer and executive leader. She's also a mom, an immigrant, a woman of color, an author, a painter, a healer, and a meditator. Anjli's mission is to empower high achievers to soar to their highest potential as leaders and as human beings. My goodness, Anjli, we need you. Please, welcome to the Branding Room Only podcast. Thank you for coming here to talk to me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Paula. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Fantastic. So I start off all of my podcasts by saying, what does a personal brand mean to you? How do you define it?
So it's funny that you should ask. I feel, and it might be an odd answer, but I feel like it's an ineffable thing. It's a unique signature that you have, right? Like no two personal brands are the same.
Yep.
And it sort of carries with you and people know it when they see it, but they may not always be able to express it in words. It's a feeling that they feel when they're around you or that they hear about you and when you come to mind. Yep. That's what I would think of as a personal brand.
I think that is a great description. And there's no way for you to know this, but this is the second time today that someone has expressed branding as a feeling about somebody.
Really?
And I love that because usually I get, again, I think every definition is right. I think it's whatever you think it is, right? I refer to your personal brand as your magic. And so when you talk about feeling, the person who said it before, I immediately thought, what do I feel when I think about her? And I just started to smile. So it really is a feeling, how you connect with that person and how they make you feel. So thank you for sharing that. So tell me, how would you describe yourself in 3 words or short phrases?
I would say that I'm kind, that I'm intuitive, and resilient.
Oh, I love that.
And part of that is being resourceful. I gave you 4 words. I gave you 4 words instead of 3. So
I will take that. Not a problem. I think all of that is fantastic. And I just was talking to my daughter recently about the fact that you don't have to be nice all the time, but you do have to be kind. And the difference between those things, a lot of times people will tell women in particular, and women of color especially, you have to be more nice. And I'm like, no. But you do have to be kind. I think that's important to be a kind person. So I love that. Okay.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So do you have a favorite quote or a mantra that you use or like?
Yes, I have a couple. One that I didn't come up with, but it to me resonates and sums up my whole journey is that the only way out is in.
Ooh. Yes. Yep. Okay. Another one, or is that the one you're going to share?
The other one is something that is close to my heart. It's something I've come up with is that when you're soaring, it's effortless.
Oh, I'm already, everybody who's listening and anybody who's watching, you just know that I'm already like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so good. Yeah, I think as we'll get into our conversation that those 2 things will resonate even more, but I 100% agree. It's about the inward journey reflects the outward output, right? Like what you do inside gets your stuff on outside. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I ask everybody this, what's your hype song? So if you want people to know that they're going to get Anjli, what is that? Like, what's that song? Or if you're having like a terrible day, what song are you playing to make yourself feel better? And it could be the same song or 2 different songs.
Yeah. So there's a couple of songs that came in mind, and you're probably already seeing a theme here, right? So one of them is the Hall of Fame by will.i.am.
Okay.
And the other one is from Nina Simone. It's a New Day.
Oh, so good. I love it. I love this.
What I love about both of them is it's all about self-belief and reinvention. Right? There's no except for the one you set for yourself.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about where you grew up, what shaped you, and your career path. What's the Anjli story?
So, what I would say is the way I grew up has had a huge impact on me. I was born in India and I was 7 years old when my family moved to the States.
Mhm.
And I would describe my transition as a night and day sort of story.
Okay.
Imagine that you're in a community, in a place where you just belong and you never think about belonging because it is,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? The culture, the language, the food, the religion,
Mhm.
everything, right?
Mhm.
You are that
Yeah.
that's reflected around you.
Mhm.
And then imagine that overnight you come onto a place where it's upside down world. You're like Alice in Wonderland. No one looks like you, no one speaks like you, no one follows the same religion, dress, food, everything,
Mm.
top to bottom.
Wow.
That's what happened when I moved to Connecticut with my family. I was 7 years old, and it was a completely like being like Alice in Wonderland.
Mhm.
And where do you belong? And I think that that has been a large part of my journey
Mhm.
is what it means when you come out from a place of belonging into a place of, well, do I belong here? And how do I justify myself? Like, how do I get a seat at the table? Do I
Mhm.
have a right to be here? And that quest, for me, it translated into a lot of throwing myself into things I could control in my
Mhm.
mind, which was I threw myself into being the best student I could possibly be, to excel, and that's a story of a lot of people, I think. And I started to go to different places in my life where I finally went to college, where I was in a place that I felt more of a sense of belonging because there were more people that were different. I didn't necessarily feel connected to most of them, funny enough, but I
Mhm.
loved that there were more people than a specific subset of the population, right?
Yep.
And it opened up new horizons. And then I think the place that I've felt the most belonging in has been New York City, where I called home for so many years. And it struck me because I was having a conversation with a friend, and I said, I think that everyone belongs to New York because no one belongs to New York.
That's a that's a really good way of explaining it, except that I belong from Brooklyn, definitely.
But you understand what I mean by
Yes.
that no one belongs to New York, right?
Yes.
Because it's
Yes.
like no one can own New York.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
one is New York.
Yeah. We make it up. We, the collective, make it up.
That's it. So we
Mhm.
all belong because it's all part of that's what it means to be a New Yorker.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So then tell me how you got to the law after that.
So I actually came to New York City to study. So I
Mhm.
went to law school at NYU, and that's where I started my legal career.
Okay. Mhm.
And I was doing what a lot of us who grew up as immigrants and are first generation in terms of that kind of profession or even in that kind of area, meaning I'm the first person in my family, other than my brother, to get a secondary degree,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So college to law school, and you don't always have these mentors or people you can look to tell you, well, what's the way to do it? So the path I followed was just get the best one. Try to get the best one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you get the best one, then chances are you'll succeed or you get to the next level, wherever that is. So I was sort of flying by the seat of my pants, and my only compass was try to get the best one.
Mhm.
Try to get the best law school, try to get the best law firm, try to get the best whatever in the sense of reputation, status, and the rest will follow, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good segue into branding because a part of your brand is who you're affiliated, and that includes institutions and right and where you're affiliated with. And so that is definitely a part. And I do think a lot of folks who don't have a specific roadmap, or to your point about mentors or even teachers who can like lay the map, that is the way. Like if that's what the importance of lists are, where it's like, oh, that's the top. Okay, good. That's the one I want to strive for, right? It's not always fully accurate, but it gives you a sort of a path that you can follow that will hopefully lead you to where you need to go to. So then talk to me about you then starting your practice.
So this is coinciding with that whole the only way out is in.
Yes.
So a lot of my career and my life in terms of early life has been focused on the outward, right? That's the whole the best is. And it has really helped me in my journey. And at some point, a light switch sort of went on. It wasn't something I was looking for, it happened to me. And that changed my perspective and brought me inward. And when it brought me inward, it started to have me connect. I started to connect with myself and who I am and what I want and what really makes me feel fulfilled and happy. And part of that journey, I realized, was about being of service. I love being of service. And I also understand another thing about myself, which is that I've worked really hard for success and for certain things that go with success. And my mantra really is service with abundance.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And I think a lot of more people would be of service if the ethos of what service means wasn't giving up everything that you want that's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like the two go together, for me at least.
So you're rebranding the way that we look at service, right? Like that it doesn't have to mean scarcity and it doesn't have to mean lack. You can have, I love, love, love that. Service with abundance.
Absolutely. Because to me, more people would be of service if they didn't think that being of service means being impoverished for yourself.
I, in thinking about sort of the legal profession and sort of the place in which we navigate a lot, that just immediately called me to thinking about how folks will perceive doing more things for inclusion and incorporating and bringing in people who are different than them and feeling like if I do that, right, then there's not going to be enough for me. And it's like, no. We're not living in a closed field. Like there's literally everything expands when your perspective expands, when you understand that it's not taking away, it's actually making space for people who and experiences and perspectives that should have been there anyway and weren't for whatever reason. So I love thinking about that in that way. That's a fantastic perspective.
And the research, bears it out.
Yep. Yes.
Because now people talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging not as like a nice to do,
right,
but a business sensible proposition. Because it is, and that to your point, it's not a zero-sum game. It actually does expand. So I love that you said that.
So, okay, so talk to me about your experience when you were in corporate law. So I know that it drove you inwards, but tell me about what that was sort of like, things that resonated in that space for when you did that, and then we can get into why and how you moved out of it.
So I've loved being a lawyer. I've met amazing people. I've had amazing experiences. I've traveled to places and I've gotten to work with people who are highly intelligent, highly capable, and passionate. So I have nothing negative to say about the law. It's just that there was a part of me that wasn't reflected in my journey as a lawyer. And that part I was doing informally when people would come to me and people would trust me. And that's something that I actually hold very sacred is people's trust.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing them expand out of the boundaries that they put on themselves.
And out of the boundaries. All these great one-liners. And I'm like, I'm just going to use that too.
And the reason I say that is because it's a reflection of me too. And because I want to be very clear, I'm not above any of this stuff. This is very much my own journey. It's all been about looking at the limits and feeling them keenly and also saying, okay, am I ready to really step beyond this, even though it feels scary, even though it feels hard, and even if like I might fail.
No, not the F word. Failure is how we move forward, right? I always say one F word moves to the other. Failure move forward. Okay, so then talk to me about the transition and then actually saying, I'm not going to practice anymore. I'm going to start coaching. What was that like for you? And how do you coach? What's the coaching process like for you?
Sure. Thank you. So for me, it's really this summer that I transitioned to full-time coaching. I've been coaching on the side for the last 5 years. And I transitioned fully into coaching because it's another one of those places where I'm betting on myself and going beyond the limits I may have put on myself, which is that I've worked for people my entire life.
Yeah.
And this is a chance for me to take this thing that I find very fulfilling, that I feel very passionate about, to put it out into the world in a more fuller way, and to step into that place of the unknown, because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's the unknown.
Yep.
And you're right. It's unknown. And you know that better than anybody. You've done this way longer than I have.
It is stepping out into the unknown, but there's something that you said that I need to pull out and highlight, and that is really important, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, that you are the best bet that you can ever make. That, right, of the places where we have control, we can control our perspective, we can't control all the other things about, or we can control, right, our experiences as much as we can. And that's why I say it's not a bet when you're relying on yourself. You're just saying that it's time for me to invest in what I know is already there, right? And that's not a bet, that is a sure investment. So I love that. All right, so coaching, you've been doing it as your side gig. Now you're doing it full time. I was glad that we were going to be talking at the beginning of the year, although, when the podcast comes out, who knows, and people listen to it at all times. Why is coaching important? How can it help folks who might need support? And how can it just be a sort of consistency, even if you don't feel like you have challenges, to help you to be strategic and to be thoughtful about what your path is?
Yeah. This is a great question because most lawyers, and including myself, have not heard of coaching. It's getting more popular now, but it's more popular in the C-suite and in the business context more so than in the legal context.
Yeah.
The way I would describe coaching is it's an opportunity for you to step into a more expanded version of yourself in a very safe, confidential way. Is one of the things that we do, and I do this all the time, is that we get in our own heads about things and we make conclusions about what's possible for me and what's not possible for me. I can't have that. No, I'm not that. And in that way, we limit ourselves, right? So what I love about coaching is it's all about going beyond your limits in a very concrete, meaningful way that has an impact, right? This has an impact on your performance. It has an impact on your success. It has an impact on your well-being and on your sense of fulfillment and happiness, because often we feel like we're stuck. I'm stuck. This is just the way things are, and they can't change unless I radically give up things I want. These are beliefs, and we have them.
Yeah.
And so what coaching can do is help you explore, is it really true that you're stuck? What does it mean to be stuck? And what would it look like if you weren't stuck? Right? And do you really have to give up everything to have that thing that you want, maybe that you're even afraid to say to someone else? But here you are, you can say it. You can say it out loud, and there's no consequence. You don't even have to do anything about it. And that's the beauty of coaching. It's like a container where you can go someplace where you can't go with anyone else, really.
I love that, the way you just described it, because I used to coach individuals a lot, and I would say that I am the foot in your back. Like, I'd be like, if you want to get there, I'm going to push you forward so you get there. But truthfully, what it was setting a safe space so that folks could stop lying to themselves. Like, that was really, truly, and whether it was a conscious lying, and sometimes it was, or an unconscious lying where it's just like, you know what, that you say this what you want because it sounds good, but is that really what you want? Right? You say this is who you are, but is it really who you are? And just to push back a little bit so folks can say, okay, I feel safe enough to be able to say, actually, you're right. I did want to be a chef. I don't know why I'm here, or whatever the thing is. And it is powerful when you can, to your point, go inwards in order to explore and to go on the path of what you need to do and what you're meant to do out externally. So I love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
And I've had clients who've said things that they're like afraid to say out loud.
Yep. Yes.
And it's like, oh, can I really say this? Can I really say that I want this? It's a place where you can speak your truth without judgment. And then you realize it's not really that bad.
Right. I mean, there's so much heaviness that goes into, how we were raised, our ancestral, all these things that go into who the story we make up. Speaking of branding, about who we are, but also who we're supposed to be. And that's supposed to, I always say, I'm trying to get rid of in my whole life. I want to get rid of all the shoulds. I shouldn't do nothing. I should only do what I want to do. No more shoulds. Because it creates a story that's not necessarily your story. And then you have to unlearn it, and then figure out what that story is. And I think that that's a powerful, powerful thing. So speaking of powerful and learning and inwardness, can you talk about like how holistic practices like healing, how it works to contribute to your brand and helping you to help your clients elicit a part of their brand and their journey? Talk to me about that.
For me, these holistic practices, because when I coach, to your
Mhm.
point, just to give context, is I'm looking at the whole person.
Mhm.
And part of the whole person is knowing and connecting to yourself.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we do, and that I see a lot of high achievers do, and including myself,
Mhm.
is disconnect from ourselves and go into the mental space, and that becomes the only space that we're in.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? I can speak from personal experience, right? And so there's no connection to the body, there's no connection to the emotion, there's no connection to that intuitive self.
Mhm.
It's just this analytical, like, what's the next thing I need to do, and how do I need to do it to be whoever I need to be to achieve whatever it is I need to achieve.
Mhm.
But we don't pause to think, well, one is, well, do I want to achieve that?
Mhm.
And if I do, why?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with it, but what is my rationale? What's my motivation? And then how do I want to achieve it?
Mhm.
Is it
Mhm.
aligned with who I am? And who am I, by the way, in
Yeah.
terms of what makes me tick, what makes me feel successful?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? And I say that very intentionally because there's this whole loaded understanding of what success is that we get from the outside in. And that can be your version of what success is, no problem. But
Right.
a lot of what I've discovered when I talk to clients is that doesn't necessarily make them feel successful. It's part of what makes them feel successful.
Yeah.
But they're often surprised by, well, you know what? It's actually being of service that makes me feel successful. It's
Mhm.
actually feeling like being with my child that makes me feel successful. It's actually, doing this thing that I love doing that makes me feel successful, painting a
Mhm.
picture or like making a movie or whatever it is,
Yes.
right? It's this thing where I get to create something that makes me feel successful. I want all these other things. They're part of what makes me feel like success. I don't want to give that up, but I haven't really owned this part of myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's always like the story I've told myself is I can't really have that and have this. And what they discover is, wow, you can have both.
Mhm. First of all, 100% and absolutely, and particularly if going back to what we were saying before, you are finding out who yourself is and then saying, I'm going to invest in who that person is as I go forward. As you were sort of just talking about that, I kept thinking about magic. And lawyers, and I'm going to group us into big groups here. I got a bunch of groups I'm going to let lawyers, people from Brooklyn, me, type A people, Aquarius, I don't care, however you decide who you are. I would describe myself generally as very much like, keep it real, tell me who you are. You're going to get full and authentic Paula at all times. And so that has meant in my lifetime, I've been very literal and very much like I need to know what is the data and the science and the resources behind that. And one of the ways that I have emerged as a human being, and I think has made me put me in a much better space, is to be open to the fact that the one way or the two ways or the three ways that I know how to do something are not the only ways, right? And so I had an experience almost before the pandemic, so 5 years ago, I guess depending on when y'all are listening to this now, where I had an understanding that what was traditional was not necessarily what was going to be the space that I needed to be in order for me to have a healing experience. And that was outside of, so I've done acupuncture in spaces. And, when I was pregnant, I did acupuncture for pain. I was like, I don't care what it is, knock me out. I just don't want to feel the pain. I did that. But I didn't do it in my mind as I did. I was like, whatever, as long as this kid is not causing me any pain, I'm going to do it. And then, whatever the 5 years ago was, it was like, okay, think about acupuncture as a place of like healing what is going on both internally and then like the pain that's actually showing up and coming to it in that space. have helped me to experience it in a very different way. Going forward, I think from that and realizing, oh my gosh, I actually do feel better. I've been a lot more open about what I want to experience. And also, I'm open to hearing from other people. And so that long intro kind of leads me into that Anjali was very kind to say to me, look, I want you to experience some of what I have had the opportunity to do and share with clients. And that was an experience that I am still sitting with, y'all. I'm not going to go all into the details, but I will tell you this. As somebody who's coached, and I currently still now have 2 coaches who I work with and a therapist. I got a whole team, Paula, that one of the skills that Anjali was able to show me in her magic was an ability to kind of see inside and to help me to process some of the stuff that I had going on in a way that, like I said, I'm still sitting with the magic that emerged. And all I can tell you is from that experience, I just feel lighter. And all of y'all know that I'm always fun. I try to be the experience that I want people to have with me. I try to make sure that folks leave me feeling better than when they got me. But I got to tell you, in the last week or so, I have been like, whoa, I am radiating sunshine to folks because I just feel like there was something in that experience that I had in this coaching session and the session with Anjali that was like lifted. So to that end, I am not a paid endorsement. I can tell you that you may want to open yourself up to thinking about the experience of having self-reflection and being able to navigate differently with a lot of different tools, not just one. And that I think is how Anjali helps people to soar, because I do feel like I'm soaring. So y'all, you got to check out her website. You got to contact her. That being said, I don't know what else you want to add about it. I just wanted to make sure that in our time together that I share with people that you're not just talking it, you actually are doing it. So there's that.
Oh, thank you so much, Paula. It's such a pleasure and honor to have been on that journey with you. And what Paula is talking about is one of the tools in my toolbox, if you will, because I work very holistically with my clients, right? It's weird doing both the analytical, tactical, strategic thing that appeals to the mind and the way that we're brought to be like data driven and show me the results and the way I can understand them. And then at a very mindset level, and then at an energetic level. And that energetic level is something beyond words. It is energy, right? And we are all energy. Science has proven that. You can read all sorts of articles about it if you're still not convinced. There is what you're experiencing about the lightness is that there is energy that sits within us that's unresolved. And that energy that's unresolved that sits within us creates stagnation. And it creates dis-ease, right? And that dis-ease, mental, it can be emotional, it can be physical, or it can be all of the above, because it's trapped energy that doesn't need to be there. It's no longer serving you. And it's there in the form of traumatic experiences. And by trauma, I'm talking about not just the capital T trauma that people think of, but I'm talking about anything that's a felt experience that has impacted you emotionally in a very deep way. And so that trauma sits with us, and that sense of unresolved issues, whatever they might be. And often it happens in childhood, and it just sits there, and you can't reason with it because it's like a 2-year-old child. Try reasoning with a 2-year-old, right? It's how far you get. That's why, like, when we have all these blocks, like, oh, I know I need to stop trying to be perfect, but I can't let go of it. And I've tried to reason with myself. What's the worst that'll happen? It's not gonna, but it's still there, right? Or the shoulds in your life, as you're talking about, like, I have to do this, or I should do this, or I shouldn't do that. Why? And you can sit there and rationalize with yourself, and then you come back to the same thing. I should say no, but I can't say no. Why can't I say no? And what's wrong with me that I can't say? Nothing is wrong with you. You have a pattern of belief and mechanisms you put in place to stay safe at a certain time in your life. And that energy is still there until we can dissolve it, until you can feel safe to dissolve it. And so that's what the work we do that's beyond words. That is a supplement to the coaching. And that is what you're talking about.
I am sold. And I love that you this mantle the word disease into dis and ease. And I have never, although I probably am sure at some point when I was little, I had to like figure out the two, but it truly is not having ease and what that means. And I just had like a moment thinking about that. When you have dis-ease, it creates dis-ease.
That's it. That's it.
Wow. Wow. Y'all, I'm telling you, y'all know me and trust me because you listen to my podcast. You know this already. I don't believe, and I will never, ever talk to you about something that I either have not experienced or don't know somebody who's experienced. I'm a referral base. You got to hear it. But I'm telling you, I feel, you can hear it. I feel lighter. So, and now I just got to actually get lighter because I got a beach to be on. Thank you for explaining that. I think it will be helpful, and I'm hoping a lot of people will actually go and want to hear more about this. So, a part of how you coach, again, for the whole person, can impact how they show up. And so, I'm just thinking about this piece of it. What have you seen, and this I'm interested in the answer, in terms of people's mistakes and how their brands has show up, maybe, and that's why they came to you, or because they have not sort of internalized or worked with the process in the way that they should? Like, what are some of the mistakes that you've seen around building your brand and showing up in whatever way due to not having done the work or doing the work?
Mm-hmm.
I know. I hope I asked the question right. Anyway.
No, it's an excellent question. What I see mostly is what I've done in my own life, which is trying to be and trying to do what you think is the formula for success. Right? So if I need to project this image or I need to do this stuff so that people will see me as something that is valuable and something they want at the table. And there is a certain aspect, I'm not a Pollyanna. I know that there is a certain aspect to the game that we play out in the world, depending on what goal you're going for. But here's what happens when you play that game too much, too far on the spectrum, is that you lose sight of yourself. And then there is this feeling of hollowness that comes from it. And an inconsistency that results too, because you're not doing it authentically necessarily. You're playing a role when you're putting on a mask. Nothing wrong with that. But here's what happens is if you put that mask on long enough and hard enough, it feels like there's a disconnection and there's a feeling of that's not who I really am.
Yeah.
And then imposter syndrome kicks in. And you lose confidence too, because you're trying to be something or you're projecting something that you're not.
Yeah. One of the things that I say often when I'm doing sessions on personal branding, et cetera, is fake it till you become it. But as I think about it, it really isn't that. It's more like fake it or show up that way until you can tap into it. Because you are it, right? You don't have to become it. You are it. It's just you have to trust yourself enough to be able to say, now I can show it, right? And imposter syndrome is such a challenging thing because oftentimes it's not you, it's the place that's not belonging, to your point, right? It is that you can't show up as who you are because of the situation you're in versus who you actually are. So
yeah, and I agree with you on that. And I will make a slight tweak in terms of my own, because I always tell my clients, I never do fake it till you make it with you. Because unless you feel safe to do this, we're not going to go there, because I'm not here to convince you of anything. It's to help you step into a place of safety so that you can own it. And what I really mean about the imposter syndrome and the confidence is often the reason why we're in that lack of confidence and imposter syndrome, at least from my perspective, in my own experience and also with the experience of my clients, is we're looking for other people to reflect our value back at us. Right? And that is a very destabilizing game, because one moment you might say, right, let's just say you're in front of me, one moment you might sing my praises, and the next minute you don't like something that I've done, or you devalue something I've done. So if I'm basing my sense of value and my sense of worth on you, I've totally given my power away and I am on shifting sand. There's no way for me to gain like stability and grounding in that. So what I'm talking about there is dialing back inside to see and connect to the fact that, yes, I am valuable in and of myself. What I have to contribute and who I am, aside from what I do, is valuable. And that's the real underpinning of my coaching. And it's that place where when you own that, there's a confidence that comes that no matter what happens, because life is going to have its challenges, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
They're not going to go the way that you expected them to or the way that you wanted them to. Whether it's people, whether it's situations, whatever it might happen, right? And we've saw the whole world has witnessed that with COVID, right? If not with other events. But it's that no matter what happens, I have this unshakable core and the tools to come back to that center, right? Because I know what alignment looks like for me now. And so I can go back into that alignment so that when the world is shifting around me, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm able to stand there and flow with it without breaking with it.
Oh, yes. It's almost like you and my therapist have like a side conversation because I said yesterday too in therapy, I said, I have stopped resisting the flow. I still want to roll faster, but I've stopped resisting. And for me, that's a huge shift. And I think for a lot of folks who have been taught that if you just work hard enough, you just do these things, that all the things will happen. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have no control. I don't have control. And letting it go and just be like, you know what, I can show it as best I can. And then life is still going to life, and being okay with that and understanding that resisting it is not going to change that either is a key thing. My goodness, it's a key thing. So then what advice do you have for people who are trying to build their brand?
It's really to understand yourself more fully, right? Know what your strengths are. Know what your values are. Know what you need to thrive. And then own it. Because one of the things that I've found again and again in my coaching is that, and this is a strategy for success that a lot of us have taken on, myself included, right? Which is that our strengths they're okay, but it's the thing I don't have. That's the thing that's really valuable. And is it really, can I really own this strength? Like, am I really good at it, or is just everybody good at it? So it's like, right. It's funny, like usually things that come easy to us are things that are strengths of ours.
Yes.
And so we assume it's easy for everybody.
Yes.
So what's the big deal about that? Everybody can do it.
No.
Not that valuable. It's that thing right there that I can't do or that I'm not as adept in. That's what's really valuable.
Yeah.
And so it's really taking that and owning it, because then when you own it and you understand yourself, you can convey that confidence, and that goes into your branding. Because again, we come back to what is branding? It's a feeling.
Yeah. Yes.
So you talked about that person, right?
Yeah.
When you thought of her, a smile came on your face, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say that when you do that, I think a lot of folks, and I'm particularly thinking about some of my audience who, maybe from traditionally underrepresented groups, et cetera, when you tap into the strength, it feels less about as boasting. And it's just more about, I'm sharing who I am, I'm sharing right? And even though it comes easily, it does not mean you should devalue it. Absolutely 100%. You should be thinking about the places where you have ease more in terms of the strengths that you have, as opposed to trying to fight and push against and find. Again, I'm a big believer in always trying to get better, but there are definitely some things, and I'm like, oh, I got that. And I'm gonna tell you that if you need somebody to brainstorm with, I'm your girl. You want somebody to tell you about branding? I got you. Right. Other things I still know how to do, but maybe a little harder because I've worked at it. And I think that is an excellent way of thinking about that. And particularly for those of you who are listening who may feel as if you don't belong, right? And are devaluing the needing and wanting to have this new skill set, et cetera, or skill set other people have, and not feeling belonging is like a powder keg of feeling like imposter syndrome. Like that's all of it together. And thinking with the perspective of how can I own my strengths to flourish in the space I'm in, if that's what you choose to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. Because it's in that place of not having, because what happens is the opposite of that is we try to prove our worth again and again. And as women of color, I mean,
Mhm.
I know I've done this. I know
Mhm.
you
Yep.
probably done
Yep.
this, right? Which is,
Yeah.
hey, look, this new trick I just did just shows you, right, that I belong here.
Yes.
I belong here, right? Well,
Yeah.
you already have that seat at the table. You don't need to keep proving yourself. What you
Yeah.
need to do is own authentically, like feel it inside yourself that, yeah, you are really valuable. You
Y'all,
being here is really valuable. Ask yourself, like one thing I always ask my clients is, what's missing from the room when you're not in it?
oh, what a great question. What
Right?
what a great that just like took me back. If you're watching the YouTube, I like literally lean back. That is a great question. That is a fantastic question. And I thought to myself about what you were just saying too. That's not just like work and professional advice. That's relationship advice. Like if you are being like, pick me, choose me, it's probably not the right person, right? You are perfect and wonderful and valuable all on your own. And people should see that as opposed to you having to, you know, perform tricks in order for them to see your value. I think that is a key point. I hope y'all are hearing it. And for those of you who do, because I know that you are thinking of certain people specifically, make sure you email me when you heard this, because I want to hear that you acknowledge that you don't have to perform for your value to be visible and for you to value yourself. So
That's
that's good. So Anjali, tell me, what do you do for fun? What's your fun stuff?
Ooh, I love that question because it's so funny because this year, I know you do a word of the year,
Yes.
and I
Mhm.
know your word is joy, which I think is lovely. I love it.
You.
And I was thinking about that for myself, and this year I have two words.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, right? It can't be one, it's got to be two. So it's movement and play. And
Oh. Mhm.
my intention for this year,
Mhm.
and it's not a resolution, it's an intention, is to
Mhm.
find movement and play in almost anything I do. Because I realized that one of the things that lights me up with joy is to be
Mhm.
in movement, to be in nature, to
Ah,
be active, but in a fun, playful way, not in a treadmill sort of way.
yeah, me
Right?
too.
Right? To play and connect with others. And I love to do that. I love to be in nature. I love to paint. uh,
Yeah.
because to me, painting is playing with color, and color is something that I just love. Right? To have colorful things around me is something that I enjoy.
Yes.
I enjoy connection.
Mhm. Mhm.
So great conversation, even an exchange with a stranger on a walk or on the way to work or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just have that moment, right? And then it's like, I see you and you see
Mhm.
me.
Yep.
There's an
Yeah.
acknowledgement. It's such a beautiful moment for me.
It really is. And that, of course, I have to give a shout out to my annual intention and goal setting session that I do. So if you all haven't seen it, go look at the replay. It's always a fantastic over 400 people getting together and being like, we want to do this thing this year. We want to do it in a wonderful way and with great resources. So go back and check that out, because you can talk about setting your own intentions and picking your own word for the year. And it doesn't matter what time of year you're hearing this, it's still appropriate for you to do it now. If you haven't done it, do it now. And so do that. I have two questions that I ask everybody in my podcast. One of those is, standing by your brand. Like, what is it? What's an authentic aspect of your personal brand that you will never compromise on?
Being a safe space.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
I pride myself on keeping people's secrets and
Hmm.
for never using their secrets against them.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And really being that place, because that's something that I've always wanted in my life.
Hmm.
And so when my clients come to me or anybody comes to me and says
Hmm.
something vulnerable,
Hmm.
something they want to share with me,
Hmm.
I hold that sacred. And so that being that safe space is a really big piece for
Yeah.
me.
I love that. And I can tell you all that immediately I felt safe. And you can kind of hear her voice. Like Anjali's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel calm. It's just, I remember once somebody said to me, Paula, before you do some of your training sessions, you should center people and get them into a space of meditation. I was like, I am not the right person. but but to that end. There are people who immediately, I'm like, I will get you in a fun space. I will get you in a movement space, but I'm not. Right. I think your voice also talks about how it helps you get into that space as well. So tell me this. What is your branding room only moment, which obviously is a play on standing room only, something that somebody's going to come into a room crowded and stand there to see or experience about you?
I would say it's a funny you said the
Mhm.
calm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have heard that time and time again from people.
Mhm.
And until I kept hearing it, I was like, I didn't quite get it because it's like something, right? It's like that thing where
Mhm.
it's something you do or you are,
Yeah.
and you have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I noticed that people say that to me again and again, that I
Mhm.
feel like really calm and serene in your presence. I feel
Mhm.
like anxiety goes down, the feeling of, and so one of the things that I would say is that when I've heard that a lot from
Yeah.
people,
Yep.
that in my presence they feel calmer, whether
Mhm.
it's via Zoom or in person.
Yep. I can attest to that. Anjali and I met in a networking reception. It was really, really loud. When she came and introduced herself to me, and I did immediately, I was like, oh my gosh, so much so that I spoke about it at the dinner that night. I was like, she was so nice. And so when you are in your authentic space and when you are in your magic space, what I call it, it just shows up. You don't even have to think about it. It just kind of shows up. So I feel even calmer already just thinking about this. Tell my people, tell Paula's peeps how they can stay in contact with you, how can they reach you, and how can they learn about working with you?
Oh, thank you for that. They can reach me on my website,
Mhm.
your coach to soar,
Mhm.
SOAR.com.
Yep.
And reach out to me and set up a complimentary epiphany call, which will get you a sense of what it's like to work with me. We'll do a kind of coaching session.
Mhm.
And there is a program that I'm enrolling that I created for high achieving professional women. That's a 12-week program that is taking you from burnout to balance. And we're
Mhm.
going to do a deep dive on all these things we talked about, getting clarity on your steps, connecting with yourself, letting go of those limiting beliefs, being really clear on some goals for yourself as
Mhm.
to what you want to achieve and implementing those goals. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me as well.
I love it. Everybody tell everybody. Uh, and we'll see you in the next episode of Branding Room Only. Bye, y'all.